All right, it's Wednesday night at 7:30. That means it is the 573 report with myself and Mitchell Forde. Thanks for joining us. About 15 minutes here. We are going to be adding Mizzou tight ends coach and recruiting coordinator Casey Woods to the conversation, but for the next few minutes, it's just us. So deal with it. Think up some good questions for once Coach Woods gets on, and that's great. If you've got any questions for us, please feel free to pop those in the chat. Comments, compliments, invitations to weddings, whatever you want to do. But 573 report is sponsored, makes sense, by 573tees.com. You can go there. I know last week they had a special going, and a lot of you guys did that. We appreciate that. I don't know of any specials going right now, but you never know. Just go to their website, check it out, and even if they don't have any specials, full price for a T-shirt isn't that bad. So buy that, support a local business, support a sponsor. Appreciate that. Mitch, what's up, man?
Not too much. I had to correct you right off the top and potentially
It's
damage
not
your whole
Wednesday
week, but
night.
it's a Wednesday. Yeah, it's a Tuesday. I mean, not Wednesday. Yeah. So sorry,
Yeah.
you gotta make it through a whole nother day.
Well, I mean, like David said, every day is just the same. I frequently find myself going, "What day is today?" And then it doesn't really matter. It's just a day, like yesterday and tomorrow.
Very true.
This was originally supposed to be Wednesday though,
Mm-hmm.
because Tuesday was supposed to be basketball, and then it wasn't, and miraculously, then all of Kentucky's people are healthy to play on Wednesday, but weren't healthy to play on Tuesday, and I'm not even going to kind of pretend I understand why that might be.
Yeah, my best guess is they had one positive and either were testing to make sure, see if it's a false positive, and it was, or I think probably more likely just trying to figure out the extent of contact tracing before they proceeded and making sure no one else tested positive and it didn't spread. But yeah, I don't know. I've long since stopped asking questions about why things happen the way they do in the virus era. It's just
Right.
kind of like, all right, just tell me when to show up to cover the game.
Right. They're going to play a game. We found out, I'm trying to think, it was Monday afternoon at about 4 o'clock, so a good 28 hours before tip off, which is really pretty far in advance in this day and age, to be quite honest. And grateful for that. I know Missouri was really happy to have this game happening because they've already lost 2 home games, and losing a third when you don't know if you're going to be able to make it up. Like I just saw, what is it? A&M and Vanderbilt is postponed. So losing another game that at this point you might not be able to make up would be fairly damaging, especially a game that, as weird as it sounds to say, Missouri should win.
Yeah, I mean, it would just, it'd kind of stink to lose 3 home games, and, 2 of them at a minimum, they're probably favored in. LSU one's probably a little more of a toss-up, although I still think Missouri's probably would be favored at Mizzou Arena. But yeah, I mean, like, that would be kind of tough luck. I think also, like, if it just from a fan standpoint, like, you want to get a chance to play Kentucky this year because there's not many chances you have to beat Kentucky. In fact, Missouri's only beaten Kentucky once ever. I found that out today. So, they'll have another chance this week, and a more realistic chance than sometimes in the past.
Yeah, I think it's 13-1 is the all-time
Mm-hmm.
series. The one I remember, actually, I was not at. You were at, so
That's right.
it
Mm-hmm.
was
This was
history
my
making.
first game for Power Mizzou.
That's right.
It's Yeah, it has. You would have thought based on that trend that Mizzou would have done a little better in both sports over the past 3 years, but it's not
Well,
my fault.
yeah, it happens. It can't get any worse than, I believe, 89-36 was the Kim Anderson game in Rupp Arena.
It was less than ideal.
Yeah, so we don't expect last or tomorrow night to be like that. But hang on, I am trying to work on some technology issues with our upcoming guests. So, Mitch, I don't know if you can talk about Kentucky basketball and why they're awful for a couple minutes. That'll help me.
All right, I'll talk about them a little bit. Feel free to drop comments or questions if anyone wants to chat basketball. But yeah, I mean, I grew up in Kentucky. I've watched them play a little bit this season. First of all, like, just a lot of the teams that are dealing with a lot of young players, potential one and done type players, true freshmen. Multiple of them are struggling. I mean, there was not a lot of preseason practice, not a lot of time to acclimate. not a lot of time, not as much time spent around the team outside of basketball. So that's been a challenge for teams like Duke and North Carolina and Kentucky. And Kentucky just really, they can't score is their big thing. They shoot worse than Missouri from 3-point range, which is hard to do. They're 29% on the season. They've got some guards who are talented, but they don't play incredibly well together at times, at least from what I've seen in games they've struggled. So they're it's not like this is an easy win by any means. They are still kind of a tough matchup for Missouri in the sense that they have a really long athletic defense. They can test everything at the rim. I think they're 4th in the country in blocks, and we saw against Auburn, Missouri struggled with that a little bit. It's the same thing against Tennessee the first time, a team that can keep you from getting easy baskets at the rim. But I don't know. I think if Missouri tightens up its defense and just doesn't let Kentucky get to the rim like they have the last couple teams, and also does better on the offensive glass, because Kentucky is our defensive glass. Kentucky is a very good offensive rebounding team. Then I like Missouri's chances.
Yeah,
so,
Kentucky's issues seem to be playing in the last 5 minutes of games. So really, all you've got to do is stay within striking distance of them until then, and you're set. Alabama finished on like a 12-3 run or something like that, and Kentucky basically can't close anything out. I know Calipari said during his press conference today, I just want him to be able to play better at the last 5 minutes. He also indicated some of his players might not be at the game, but it didn't have anything to do with COVID. So things seem to be going well in Lexington, much, I'm sure, to your chagrin.
Yeah. Yeah. It's wild. It's very strange here there. And I will say, you talked about the key to beating Kentucky is just get a close game in the last 5 minutes. There is an actual ironclad key to beating Kentucky this season. They have scored 75 points or more, or 76 or more in all 5 of their wins, and 65 or fewer in all 10 of their losses. So I don't know exactly where the magic number is, but it's somewhere around 70. If they don't get there, they're not winning.
What happens if they score between 65 and 76 eventually? That'd be cool.
That's what I said. We got to figure out the magic number. It's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. So we'll roll through some of these comments, not contacts, before Casey Woods jumps on in a few minutes. Eric says to prepare for his energy, he could convince me to run through a wall. We were talking before the show. I mean, we only anticipate having to ask about 4 questions to fill the hour, so we like that. That's good. Davin is wanting to know about your fandom growing up. You were a Louisville fan, right? Yeah,
I was.
Yeah, during the who were the Louisville players when you were not in basketball?
I mean,
when you were growing up.
Yeah, well, I followed Louisville very closely from the time I was probably like 5 until I graduated high school. And my senior year of high school was the year they won the national title.
Oh, okay.
Which has since been reclaimed, but we saw it happen.
I believe that was the Peyton Siva team, right?
Yeah, Peyton Siva, Gorgie Jang.
Yeah.
Luke Hancock. So
I watched Peyton Siva thoroughly embarrass Negus Webster Chan in a ballroom in the Bahamas that year, actually.
Same year. Yeah.
Wait, were you at that game, really?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
I said same year.
Yeah. No, I was actually at that game. It was enjoyable.
I was at the first round tournament site that I think you were also at that year when Louisville played Colorado State in the second round after Colorado State beat Missouri in the first round. I was at that Colorado State Missouri game as a fan because that one was in Lexington.
I was not at that particular game because I had driven home by that point. But yeah, that was that was a terrible game. I think that was Missouri's last NCAA tournament before Conzo's first year.
Yep, it was.
Yeah, so good times. Dan is asking about Nolan Arenado as if I would be like, that's fine. I mean, it's an incredibly stupid trade for Colorado to have made, but good for the Cardinals. It doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't really bother me one way or another. Good for them. We'll see how it goes. A lot of Cameron Fletcher questions. I feel like we're going to get these for 4 years.
A lot of Cams here. We got Cameron asking about Cameron Fletcher. That's
Yes.
just Cameron overload, but I enjoy that.
But I feel like we're going to, and he says he hasn't watched a lot of Kentucky basketball lately. I can't say I have either, honestly. I mean,
Well,
I've
can
not
tell
seen
you
much
that
of it.
Cameron Fletcher has not played since that time he like pouted and
Right.
left the game or something like that. I mean, he hasn't played in 2021. I know that. So I would think it's safe to say he's in the doghouse.
Yeah, and that seemed to be kind of the plan. So hang on one second. Yeah, we don't know if he's going to transfer, basically, Mitch. Right? I need you to fill for another 30 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, like, until, obviously as of now, he's still on Kentucky's roster, so you can't say for sure. I mean, it's possible, certainly. I don't know. There's talks that, like, he and Cal have ironed things out, and he's going to stick it out, but, like, no one really knows. So we'll see. I also don't know how interested Missouri would be. I would guess they would, at least kick the tires on that one, but who knows?
Yeah. So I know that Casey Woods is on our call right now. He is currently okay. He's gonna switch his video and sound on here in a second, and we will add him to the call because frankly, I assume that much like when Eli Drinkwitz was on last week, you guys would much rather hear from him than from Mitchell and I. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't know. I know that we are incredibly popular, and I can hear Casey somewhere back there.
Can you hear me?
Casey, I can hear you. Yeah, either that or a small child who's in your house.
Yeah, well, I got one of those too running around here. I am trying to figure out how to turn on my video here, if I can.
Yeah, I attempted to figure that out on my end, but I didn't know how to do
buttons.
it. But we can go right now audio wise until you do find that button, and that's fine. It works. Everybody can hear you, and that's cool. So who are we talking to there besides you?
So that's my little girl Adeline. She's down here, and I got my son Sawyer, and my other daughter's making Valentine's for her kindergarten class. So bless my wife's heart. She had a roast ready for me when I got home. It was delicious, and then put her right back to work. So she earns her being on full scholarship herself. So
yeah, I was gonna say, how's that work? Like I've heard that coaches tend to work long hours. So I assume your wife puts in long hours as well.
Oh, she's works probably a lot harder than I do. So it's she does a great job, and very fortunate to have her. Boy, she takes care of me probably a lot better than I take care of her. So. But she's great.
Well, Casey, I kind of wanted to start with this with you. Normally, this at least 2018 and before, 2019 and before, this would be the eve of like one of your guys' biggest days of the year, and everything would be happening tomorrow, and it would be, I'm sure, insanity for like 12 hours. And now, this signing day kind of has become an afterthought. What's kind of your opinion on how much it's changed, and how different is tomorrow going to be for you guys than it would have been a couple years ago?
Well, it's radically different, Gabe. It's I think that we all kind of thought it when they first presented the idea of the mid-year of the early signing period. I think that there may have been kind of a public perception that, okay, well, we'll have this. I think the original intent of it was, okay, you've had these guys committed for a year, they can go ahead and sign, and then you finish the recruiting process through February. I think what happens realistically with that, particularly when you're in a hyper-competitive environment like college football recruiting, you got a bunch of guys that are competitive, and if you say you're committed to me and you ain't willing to sign, on December, how committed are you?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that all we did is we didn't create two signing days. We just pushed forward signing day. So I think that that's what we've seen come. Certainly this year was such a unique year where guys understood that there was that their recruiting experience was not going to be the same as previous classes. So they were ready in December, probably more ready than any class has been since I remember, the last 5 years for sure. and they were ready, and we were very blessed to have a great class that joined us early and stuck with us the whole time. And we didn't have a decommitment, I don't believe, and we had guys come in and be a part, and we're really anxious and ready to jump on with us in December.
Casey, just kind of along the same lines of changes to the recruiting cycle, I guess. Just how much has the transfer portal and the number of guys that are in there, and the possibility of a potential immediate eligibility ruling, how much has that just changed roster management and recruiting from your all standpoint?
I believe that we've probably hit the peak of everything that could possibly change it with this year, given that our senior class has now become, a potential re-senior class, and now we're having to potentially adjust everyone's classification through the course of this entire thing. Certainly, you mentioned the transfer portal and all the conversation that's gone on this year. Certainly, we think that the NCAA will make a ruling in the next year on, or even 6 months probably, on one-time transfers and what that's going to look like. I think the portal, there's some uniqueness to this particular year. I think it's gained more momentum because of the opt-out options and because of the one-time transfer options. I don't know that, the transfer rule has always been in place. You've always been able to transfer. I guess it's probably easier now that you don't have to go maybe have that conversation with the coach about leaving. But I do think that it's created flexibility, certainly with the graduate transfer portal. What they were able to do with that a few years back has given guys, and it rewards them for going and attacking their school the way that they should and taking care of their business in the classroom. And when they do that, that gives them a little bit of flexibility. Certainly, I think there's an era of free agency that exists, which is a new world for us at this level. But we've got a team that's been ready, and we've responded to every action that exists, and we know that we've got to be on the front end of doing this. I do think that, the roster that we inherited had some places where we're going to benefit from this year and being able to utilize, more years, or utilize this, the transfer portal, and able to fill some of these holes that may have potentially been there for next year's team.
Casey, I've been pretty outspoken since they ruled on it back for spring athletes last year about how much this, just free year of eligibility was going to kind of screw everything up, frankly, for the next 5 years. You mentioned it a little bit, but from your guys' point of view and having to go through recruiting kids and all that, when you're recruiting kids now, are you getting many questions about, hey, what's your roster going to look like 2 and 3 years down the road? And do you guys even really have any idea what your roster is going to look like 2 or 3 years down the road? Because Connor Bazelak could still be starting like when I retire, I think, based on the eligibility rules.
God willing.
Yeah.
We are there has certainly been some conversation with that. I think it's so new that I don't know that everyone has got a full grasp on what that's going to look like right now, So I do think that there will be flexibility moving forward. Certainly that's going to create other opportunities for certain people, and it may reduce opportunities for certain people. I think that there's a blessing in there that, potentially that such an uncharacteristic year that there's, mechanisms for you to get this year back. There's not been, honestly, a whole lot of conversation through the recruiting process about what it is, about how we're going to approach that. Obviously, in-house, we're handling a lot of that. The NCAA has given us this 1-year reprieve of our 85 ceiling that we had, which obviously lifts from the 81 that we had from the previous probation. And so really get a boost this year on that. But in the future, I'm not sure that we don't have to get it back to that 85. Right now, the 2022 team will have to be back at 85. So I think that that'll balance itself out faster than you probably think. I assume that the NCAA could come back and say anyone affected by this particular year has the flexibility of moving, above that 85 mark. But if they move it back down to 85, it's going to have to normalize faster than probably people expect it to.
Casey, more of a question here about your career, and I know people have talked a lot. There's been a lot of talk about your time at UAB, and I think we'll get to that with the question. But I talked to you, I guess it was almost a year ago now, and you told me that your first job as a college coach after you were a GA at Tennessee was basically working for free at Auburn, and that's kind of how you came into the orbit of Eli Drinkwitz. I guess just kind of wanted to ask, how did you end up working for free, and how did you survive that year?
Well, that's a good question. I think when we're all desperate enough to get in this, in whatever profession it is you're chasing, you're willing to do a lot of things. I played for a guy named Trooper Taylor, who did a world for me in my career, and he's at Duke University now, and he had landed on Gene Chiswick's original staff in 2009 there at Auburn. I actually had to make a long story long here, so I went in and we finished. Coach Fulmer got let go at the end of the 2008 season. I had played for him, worked for him for the first year. Coach Lane Kiffin came in and he was working, and so we kind of had a transition period there where we were working for him, and he hired Coach Ogeron and his father and some people, and so they kind of let the entire GA room go there in January. So we worked for him through December. We got let go there in January. So, I went to the coaches convention, which was in Nashville in 2009, and had a meeting with a guy by the name of Herb Hand, who was at the time had just taken the offensive coordinator job at Tulsa. And that job was freed up by a guy named Gus Malzahn, who had just left to go be the offensive coordinator at Auburn. So I met with Coach Hand, and they had a graduate assistant opportunity. Mike Norvell had just been elevated from graduate assistant to full-time. He was like the inside receivers coach or something. So it was his job that opened up, and we were working. Essentially, I got offered that job there at Tulsa. So I was, at the time, boy, that's what I had going. I was excited. I was planning on going out there. They kind of had some staff disruptions about this time of year. And it had something to do with their full-time staff and what was going on there. And so my hiring kind of got delayed by 2 or 3 weeks. And so I was on my couch in Knoxville, and Coach and Trooper called me and said, "Hey, you need to come down here and meet this guy, Gus Malzahn." And so I did. So I got up one day and drove down to Auburn. And funny story. So I pulled into Auburn, and it was pouring rain. And the first guy that opened the door of the Auburn football complex was Curtis Looper. So he had just been hired, and that's the first time that I'd met him, and came in and was able to interview with Coach Malzahn and met with Coach Chiswick. And Coach Malzahn said, at the end of everything, I was appreciative that he wanted me, and he said, "Man, worst case scenario, we can get you in this dorm room, and you can eat on the training table." And so I said, "Okay, well, worst case scenario." And so I kind of presented a couple other ideas about, maybe I could be an RA, or maybe I could. And he's like, "Oh yeah, camp money." But it happened to be the worst case scenario. And so it was, but I did, at the time, I was in Knoxville, and Auburn was considerably closer. My dad was coaching at VMI, so I hadn't been out as far west as Tulsa. I thought there was a great opportunity to stay in the SEC. There was a great opportunity to latch myself on to Coach Malzahn, who was just beginning a budding career right there, and just God works things out for you sometimes. And so there was a delay right there at Tulsa, and I remember honestly the night that Coach Malzahn called me and offered me the volunteer position there at Auburn. I hadn't hung up the phone for 25 minutes, and Herb Hand called me back and said, "Hey, we got it worked out at Tulsa." So it was sometimes, the decisions get made for you. And so I was very blessed to do that. You kind of ask how I made it. I think we all remember how resourceful we were at that point in our life. Right. And I had one credit card, and I had a dorm room, and I lived off of, I think that I did the math, and they did give us 2 camp checks that summer, and I lived off of about $6,700 for that year. Wow. And the following February, they gave me a job checking classes, and then I kind of slid into one of those QC roles for about $9,000. And I thought that I'd arrived. When I got that $9,000, I thought, man, this is it. They're paying me to be involved in football. So sorry to draw that out a little bit, but it was that was a fun time in my life. Being at Auburn at that time, I was single, so I could work. I lived in the dorm right across the street from the office, so I could, I was just there constantly absorbing football and being around people, and I got to see firsthand. I got to work with Curtis Looper and Trooper Taylor in those fabulous classes that they put together in 9, 10, and 11. And I got to be a part of, obviously, winning a national championship in football and what Coach Malzahn was doing, cutting edge, which I still think that you see a spirit of that in our offense a little bit. And Coach Chiswick, he gave me a chance to come in there and volunteer, and was fortunate to be around great people. We won and kind of earned my way into the business.
Well, Casey, if you want to walk into Jim Sturck's office and tell him you'll volunteer next year, I'm sure he would probably be willing to listen. But we're going to give you about 30, 60 seconds to see if you log off and back on, if the video will get working. If not, we'll continue this way when you come back, and we've got some questions from people watching and all that. But we'll give you just a minute to get that, and hopefully I'll be able to add you right back in here pretty quickly.
Perfect. I will try to get that done. Sorry about this. Thank you.
No worries. So Coach Woods is just going to take a second to log out of this call and then log back in, and hopefully his video will work at that point in time. If not, we'll keep him on the phone. It's fine. It works. You guys can hear him, certainly. And yeah, I mean, Mitch, I don't know. We filled the first 12 minutes with like 3 questions, so I feel like we're doing pretty well, to be quite honest with you, about as we anticipated.
Yep. Yeah, we got some good questions from viewers lined up in the queue, so we're doing well. We just we'll get them on the screen here, and I feel like it won't take too much to finish up the time.
Yeah, and we do see your questions, guys, and we're definitely going to get to those when Coach Woods gets back with us. Again, hopefully we'll have the. I'm just proud that for once the technical issues aren't on my end. Like this is a big moment for me. But we'll certainly get back to him as soon as he jumps back in, and hopefully you guys will be able to see him. It's very confusing because when I look at my camera options, I actually have 2 different cameras, so I see me twice, and I keep thinking one of me is him, but it's not. So, yeah.
Yeah, you all look slightly different. I mean,
yeah. So I look much more athletic.
Yeah.
So before he does jump back on, while signing day tomorrow, I mean, we're anticipating, and he can't talk about this, and I want you guys to be clear when you're asking him questions. Like, he can't talk about guys that haven't signed yet. He can talk about guys that signed in December, but not guys that haven't signed yet. So we expect B.J. Harris to be announced tomorrow. We expect the two transfers probably to be announced tomorrow. That's all we're anticipating, right?
Yeah, so Jadarius Perkins, I don't think has been officially announced, even though he's on campus, the junior college cornerback. So I think he'll be announced, and then we'll get official announcements about Blaze Aldridge and maybe Mookie Cooper, although the school did already confirm his NLI, so they might throw up a graphic for him as well. But that's all we're expecting. It's possible, there's a surprise we don't know about, but that it wouldn't be a surprise then. So
right, exactly. And the thing about this year is that it's going to. I mean, it's going to last much longer. Like with the transfer portal, like Casey was talking about. I mean, I think I saw Russ Dellinger tweet like 60% of the kids in the portal don't have anywhere to go yet. So this is going to go on through spring and much of the summer.
Yeah, I mean, think back to last summer, I think it was a little after this time that Missouri picked up Damon Hazelton, and then I think it was like July or so that they picked up Kiki Chisholm. So, June or July, late June, early July. So, I mean, there is plenty of time. I think all the way pretty much up until classes start in the fall, there's the potential to, add a player or two if Missouri has the spots.
Yeah, and we do have Casey Woods back. It appears we have him back as a blue Skype icon, which is fine.
Let me see if I can.
Hey, the wonders of technology, man. We battle this. We battle different things every week. I always am fairly amazed when I even manage to get something live on the internet, and it appears that people can actually see it. So,
I apologize. I'll keep digging around on my phone here and see if I can get it going. But
no sweat. Here's one thing I wanted to ask you, Casey, and this is going to sound real basic, but I think a lot of people watching probably aren't super familiar with this. Obviously, you coach the tight ends, but you're also the recruiting coordinator. Can you just explain to all the people watching exactly what that means and what that entails in addition to just kind of your duties every day of being an assistant coach?
Yes. As the recruiting coordinator, I think I oversee that the entire philosophy and evaluation kind of process of our entire recruiting department. We do have currently 5 full-time members that are in there with us and do a great job with us. And but it's all about, I think, really coordinating with the head coach on philosophy, on our recruiting areas, on our evaluation guidelines, just general procedure. We have a recruiting handbook that every staff member gets that we've created from, just the past and then mixing that with the goals that certainly Coach Drinkwitz has got moving forward. From that standpoint, underneath, we've got a director, we've got a chief recruiting officer, we've got a director of on-campus recruiting, we've got kind of a marketing director, we've got a director of player development. Underneath them is another line of people. So it's really just overseeing all that. I think when we got here, there was an installation of that, right? Here's our recruiting philosophy, here's our recruiting goals, here's how we're going to operate in-house, here's how we're going to market ourselves, and this is what we're going to sell. And then, it's kind of a beast to get that rolling and going. And so we are fortunate to have great people that work for us and with us that have had some had more experience than others, but they've really jumped into this thing. And so that's really what I do. At the end of the day, I kind of as a hobby, and maybe this is just God working again there at UAB. I had a great experience at roster management, so I've kind of got a little bit of a hobby in that. And now's obviously as unique a time as ever in managing a roster. So I'm glad that I have that skill set and experience from UAB as we got to navigate these current waters. But so I hope that answers your question and really does. It's oversight of everything that we're doing. Plus, when coach has got new ideas about which way he wants to go or what we can do, and organization of our signing classes and how we're going to approach recruiting them.
Yeah. We want to take
Sorry, go ahead, Gabe.
a few of the questions from the people watching, and Davin wanted us to ask you, did anything surprise you about Mizzou when you got here, whether it was about the job, about the program, about recruiting to this school, anything that surprised you in your first year?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't know how good it was. I think that I've had this experience a couple more times, honestly. And I don't mean this. I'm just kind of drawing some parallels here. So, I went to Arkansas State. We went to UAB. I thought at both of those places, similar to here, there's a little bit of an untappedness about it. There's a little bit of hasn't reached its fullest potential about it. And there's obviously incredible amount of support here. There is great tradition. There's great history. And there's obviously the recruiting base I thought would probably be pretty strong, but I don't know that I knew how much room to grow there would be here. And I think the very first thing that spoke to me when I rolled up on campus at 10:30 p.m. on December 15th of last year, whatever day that was seeing that $100 million facility. I mean, I played football at Tennessee. I've worked at Auburn. My dad was the head coach of South Carolina. I mean, I've seen every one of these places, and there's nothing like it. There's nothing. It's spectacular. And so just having that tool lets you know that the people that support the University of Missouri are interested in winning, and they're interested in competing in this league and interested in doing it the right way. And I think that that's a great thing that what Coach Drinkwitz has brought to this thing is an SEC mindset and an SEC history that's come in, and we've got a great opportunity to continue to push this thing forward to meet our ultimate goals.
Okay, I see another question from a viewer. This one you kind of touched on a little bit. Is just what did you learn specifically about recruiting and as you said roster management from your time at UAB when you had to kind of build a roster from scratch?
Well, I learned a lot when I showed up on campus day one and we had 0 guys on scholarship. So we had to get to 85 within 18 months to kick off the 2017 season. And I certainly you've got to do a great job of evaluating. You've got to do a great job of building, and you got to rely. You can't miss. You know what I mean? When you're going from 0 to 85, you can't miss, because if you miss more than 10 times, now you're playing with 75. It's different. So I thought we did a great job of having specific evaluations that had some influence from the places that you were bringing, but I thought we were really, Coach Clark impressed upon us that we had to be great evaluators. And I thought one thing that I learned, a long time ago, even from Coach Fulmer, was that if you get them on campus and you got something to show them, then you got a chance to get them. So we had this, that was one of the tenets of what it was we were doing at UAB. We had all these, UAB at the time did not have a football facility that was worth anything, but we had a great campus. We had a beautiful dining facility. We had unbelievable dorms. We had this great part of town that was just untapped. They'd never used that. They focused on what they didn't have, and it was bad. The football facility was bad, but we really tried to go in there and focus on what we could sell. And that's not like here. I mean, we got great things to sell here, but I thought that we did a great job there identifying what it was we could sell and what it was that was attractive to people. And I think at the end of the day, the biggest thing that prospects are looking for is being genuine, and it's whether you're whatever version of genuine you are, they can tell, they can see when you're being real and when you're not. And if you say that family's first and then your family's never around, or you don't talk about them or show them, or your daughter isn't screaming on the background when you log on to the deal, then, maybe you don't really, they can see through that. So, I thought that, and then certainly the roster management piece, and sometimes that's just a puzzle, Mitchell. It's okay. It's awesome that we got this other linebacker that's a senior, but we can't have 6 senior linebackers, or we're going to be in trouble 2 years from now. So we got to find a way to. All right, here's this giant hole that we have. Maybe in our defensive line. So we got to make sure that we sign a good balance of older guys that can take the place of some of that hole, as well as younger guys to develop underneath them, which is an example that you saw this year as we were, coming up. So there was a ton learned there, and got thrown right into the fire when we got here. So it's been good to utilize that, and just, I think there's an air of resourcefulness. Just go, you got what you got, and you got to attack it, and then you got to improve what you're getting. And so we were able to take Coach Drinkwitz's vision and apply that. And I don't know specifically, but I understand that it was, we've probably signed one of the top 3 maybe classes in school history. So we're certainly proud that the only weapon that we had was Zoom. And so if we get a chance to really operate with, a car and a handshake, then it may help. So.
Well, it was the top-rated Missouri class ever by Rivals, and so we appreciate, after many, many years of hearing coaches say that they don't like recruiting rankings, we do like coaches to promote those rankings when it does them well. So just throwing that out there.
No, well, we appreciate that, and it's there's some relativity to it, but it's a measuring stick versus who you're competing against at worst. You know what I mean? And so it's we are it's not everything, but it is something. And I think that we tried to have the goal, like Coach Drinkwitz says, of recruiting Missouri better than it's ever been recruited. And Missouri's been recruited good before, so we understand that it's not been all bad all the time. So being able to restructure, refocus, make sure that we did a great job on that, and I think that we've our staff's invested in that vision, and we really tried to do that. And we certainly believe that that'll pay dividends in 22 and 23 as we continue to move forward.
Well, Clay asked a question, which is basically the equivalent of asking a football coach, like, tell us which of your three kids running around the house is your favorite. But he says he's asking of the incoming class which guys you think could have an immediate impact. And look, we don't expect you to single guys out necessarily, but just what has been your impression of you've gotten to get a lot of these guys on campus already. I'm not sure how much you're getting to be around them and see them, but obviously the strength coaches are and all that. So what's kind of your early impression of these guys that have hit campus?
No, I think we're really pleased with who's here right now, with the way that they look and the way that they're operating and the way that they're working. We do have flexibility to be in the weight room some. Friday mornings, we're really attacking, the goals that Coach Drinkwitz has got, pushing forward to make sure that we close the gap. And so we are we got a chance to do that. And the guys that are here have great work ethic, and they've got great hunger. And generally, I mean, guys that are mid-year guys do that, not that those that won't show up later won't, but these guys are ready to go. And so we are incredibly pleased with where they're at. Specifically, obviously, they're going to have to play football before we know who can help us compete next fall and who can't. But I will say that we've been very pleased by those mid-year guys that are here. That goes for our transfers that have come through here, like Mookie. That goes for our junior college guys that have come through here, like Realis and JD. And then we've got these freshmen that have really jumped both feet in, and we're excited to see not just our in-state footprint, Tyler and Dominic and Ryan and Connor and those guys, but also our out-of-state guys that have come in. Zaquan Reeves has showed up and done a nice job for us early on, and I don't know that I can name every single one of them, but we've been very pleased with the class so far.
JC, Ted Farnan asked, touching on some of this morning's news, will Tennessee's hiring of Jake Bresky affect Mizzou's recruiting process or any possible recruits at all? And also wanted to give you a chance to comment on Brett Whiteside, who was shortly thereafter named as his replacement.
Absolutely. Well, listen, hey, we couldn't have done what we did without Jake Bresky. Jake came in and did a fantastic job. He was an unbelievable team player, transitioning from the old staff to the new staff. I know he had great relationships with the previous staff, and he developed great relationships with our staff. And he was a big part. Hopefully he would say, the same thing, that we helped him develop his craft, and now he can go be in a position where he can help them. Obviously, I hope he doesn't help them too much, but because we got to compete against him. But we've got nothing but good things to say about Jake and the time that he invested here with us. There's certain things that you've got to always work through. I know that the IAWP applies in certain areas to some of those things. So you just, I'm sure that their staff will sort through what that means. I think that Tennessee certainly has a different footprint recruiting than we do. And there will be some crossover, and we're going to have to out-recruit them, and we're going to have to get them on our campus, and we're going to have to, show them our goals and our vision and make sure that we do that. And while, Jake will contribute to their program in a positive manner, I don't know that it's going to be, a huge impact one way or another on us. He was a huge impact before, and moving forward, we got to continue to develop and to close that gap, So to comment on Brett Whiteside, Brett was kind of in that same group, that original national championship team in 2010. He was a student assistant, if you can believe it, back then, and he came probably for worse than I did. He came to Arkansas State and was basically Coach Malzahn's operations guy while he was still an undergraduate student. So he managed. I mean, he was saving planes and organizing our recruiting and doing all kinds of stuff for us, at a young age, and did a great job there. He certainly worked his way up and developed his craft there at Auburn for Coach Malzahn the last 8 years that they were there. And it's a great opportunity to get him back on board. I know Coach Drinkwitz and him have had a long relationship. He brings a great professionalism to what we're doing. He's great from an organizational standpoint. He knows how to recruit at the highest level. Those guys at Auburn have done a good job for a long time, and he's going to add, bring an added dimension to what it is that we're doing as we continue to professionalize our recruiting department. And really, really excited to have Brett. And I know he's already jumped in there, and he's technically was still finishing his contract there at Auburn during January while he was doing what he could for us legally, and so I know he was chomping at the bit to get on campus, and he's been here 2 feet in this week.
Well, and it's interesting for people that are confused. Like, you are the recruiting coordinator. Brett's title is the director of recruiting. So these recruiting departments are something that really, I think, just in the last 5 to 10 years have become such a big thing. And I know you guys have a number of people over there. Kevin Pendleton, a former player, is involved. And I know some other former players at other times have been involved. So can you tell fans what that department specifically does that makes your guys' job easier when you do go? I say go out because eventually you'll be able to go out and recruit kids again. But what they do, kind of laying the groundwork, and how that department functions with you guys who actually are doing the active recruiting of the kids.
That's right. Well, a lot of it has to do with efficiency, and a lot of it has to do with like you had mentioned, you alluded to there, was the nature of recruiting has become so accelerated with the advancement in technology, with the truthfully the advancement of what it is that y'all do with your website, what it is that these recruiting services have been able to do with their websites, and what it is that they provide. So what they do is they streamline the process for us. They go in and we kind of divide it. Like you said, we've got Brett, who's the chief recruiting officer. He kind of operates and sees both sides of it. He works closely with me on kind of establishing Coach Drink's vision for what it is he's got for our program here. And then we've got an on-campus director of on-campus recruiting, which effectively shifted to director of virtual recruiting this past year. But again, will be when we get to start hosting visitors again. That's kind of their primary deal. We've got during the recruiting process, to be as simple as you can, you've got your identification pillar, you've got your evaluation pillar, you've got your actual recruiting pillar, and then you've got your customer service pillar. So those first two, that identification and evaluation, operate through one half of the recruiting department, which would be our off-campus guys, our scouting. That would include Jared Russell, that would include Kevin Pendleton, Christian Hines, those guys that have come in. And what they do is they are the front end of the scouting. I mean, you got to imagine 20 years ago, you may have 100 names to recruit starting this time of year. Now we have close to 10,000 names to recruit. So it's and being able to sort through those. And Huddle has been magnificent, obviously, as far as access to film and what it is that they can do, and just all those services are able to do that. And then so we have that identification, and then the evaluation stage. They help. Obviously, our coaches have a huge hand in that, but they just streamline that process for us. Instead of Coach Johnson having to watch just 200 random linemen, we can get those filtered down to where he's watching 30, and he can, rank his board from there. And then we can truly get down into the world of, all right, how do we evaluate? How do you evaluate during a virtual season? How do you evaluate when you've got to call high school coaches, who are probably the real heroes of this whole thing, while they're taping tape measures to the gym wall and taking pictures of this and making measurements of your hand and all kinds of stuff like that? They're doing an outstanding job for us, right? But then on the flip side, you've got this recruiting component, which includes organizing everyone that's on campus. That organizes our equipment room, organizes our weight room, organizes our academic center, organizes our training room, organizes just a simple facility tour, or organizes a campus tour, or organizes a dorm tour. And, so they go through great lengths to make sure that that's organized. Certainly right now, virtually, when we do have the opportunity to host players again, then that becomes a live, situation. And then, there's the element of customer service, making sure that you feel if family first, if it's about you, if it's making the customer feel like this is the product that you've got to buy, then they've got to roll in that, right? And that's Tori Washburn and Evan Norman. They come in and do that. And so there is a lot that goes into recruiting. I think it's the most unique sales pitch in the world because you're trying to convince 18-year-old young men to choose. We always say, and it's some different now, but in high school, you go where you live. When you go to the NFL, they pick you. When you're in college, that's the only time that they got control of the choice. They got to pick you. And so it is a unique sales job, and there's a lot goes into that. And they do a great job streamlining that for us. And really, they're the engine room, right? They're the ones that are shoveling coal to make the boat go, and our coaches step up and do a great job within the parameters that these, with what we set. And then these guys do a great job organizing and helping our coaches do their job most efficiently.
Well, that was cool. Peek behind the curtain. I think a lot of people watching probably didn't know all that. So that's cool. I appreciate that explanation. But in addition to, being the recruiting coordinator, you're also the tight ends coach, obviously, one of the on-field assistants for this team. And Eric G is asking, what are we getting in the two tight end signees for this class, which would be Ryan Hurstkamp, who's already on campus, I believe, and also Gavin McKay.
I love Ryan and Gavin. I think that they are both we got kind of some cool things. Keep a heads up tomorrow on social media. We got some good stuff that'll be good content for really learn about these kids. And our that same recruiting department that I was talking about spent a lot of time doing a great job getting that prepared. But Ryan is here. Obviously, he's an in-state guy that came that kind of grew up a Mizzou fan. That's what I think we were trying to tap into that at Coach Drinkwitz's first ever his press conference when he introduced and making sure that we identified those guys that grew up with a little bit of black and gold in their blood. And so, but Ryan has been great. Obviously, he's got amazing versatility. He's got great toughness. I think he's their school's all-time leading basketball scorer. So he is a well-rounded athlete, a well-rounded player. He understands space and balance and how to make plays on not just your opponent, but make plays on the ball. And so we're really excited about having him. He's already 230 pounds. I mean, he's a guy, and he's like 4% body fat or something. So he's going to be a big joker when he gets going. He's very professional. He's very driven. I think he's very focused on specific goals about what he wants for his life. I think that's one thing that Coach Drinkwitz has been hammered into us since he's got here. He talks about fit, focused, intangibles, talented, and tough. And Ryan fits all four of these, and we are really excited to have him. Gavin is a unique had a unique opportunity with him. I was actually Gavin McKay's first ever college football offer. So I was at UAB. We did a drop in Memphis, and I ran into Gavin, had an opportunity to come back and watch him practice, and then he left football practice and went to pole vault practice. And he was 205 pounds jumping however many feet on the pole vault. And I said, holy cow, who is this guy? And at the time, he really hadn't played a whole lot because he was a receiver. And so, but I felt at that time where I was, boy, I'm going to get behind the eight ball if I don't offer. So we were able to do that, found out, his family history. He's got a dad that played professionally and actually played at Washington when Gary Pinkel was there. So had some connections with our program. And his mom's father was in the Packers organization when Zach Woodfin, our strength coach, was there. So we had some natural connections that existed there. Obviously, while I was still at UAB, he came to Missouri, got an offer from that staff. When we landed back here, and he was, on their board, was like the number one or number two guy on their board. And we went back and reevaluated that junior tape, and I thought, he had recruited himself past UAB, and then, boy, there's a God thing showing up again, and there I was, and we were able to, immediately take up that relationship that we'd kind of already built. I think that Gavin brings a unique skill set in that he's got professional wide receiver skills. He's not a 4-4 guy. He's not necessarily, but he runs great. He is big. He's got kind of untamed athleticism right now. So he's going to be a guy that's transitioning to a new position. He'll come in here at 225 pounds and I don't know if you saw last summer, he put out a Twitter video of him doing like 4 backflips in a row. So, he's got some unique athleticism. We're really excited to get him in here and his background and get to work with him this summer.
Casey, along the lines of the tight end question, I'm curious how many times in the future of coaching tight ends you will play the video of Daniel Parker blocking against Arkansas for your guys.
That's good. It'll be my intro video to about every one of them. So no, Daniel brings that's an elite skill set. There are very few people that can do the things he does. I would put him up against any blocking tight end in the SEC. And what people really don't know about Daniel is that he is a well-rounded athlete. He snatches the ball out of the air when he catches it. I think you probably
every time we talked to him last year, he told us he had the best hands in the SEC. So
he's got good hands. He's got good hands, and people don't, he caught a little flat route versus Alabama last year. So I mean, we're playing them, and he was able to shimmy and make a move around the safety and got up the field for 7 yards, and it probably went unnoticed, just on tape as you're just watching this 7-yard gain to the tight end. But it was, wow, when you see him, the ability that he's got to move and gain yardage and do some things. So I expect Daniel, as he continues to mature and continues to invest himself in this football thing, that he's got a future ahead of him. And certainly he will always be highlighted by that'll be when you see him go across the draft screen here in a couple of years. That'll be the highlight that they're showing. But really excited to have Daniel. He's taken on more of a leadership role, and we're expecting big things out of him.
Going back to the Gavin McKay story, kind of leads into a question one of our viewers had, which is, and I think every staff handles this a little bit different, but can you explain the process of what goes into making an actual offer to a kid? And I think sometimes that word is, I think sometimes kids misinterpret an offer. An offer means different things, but to officially offer a kid a spot in your class, what goes into that? Is that like a staff-wide consensus, or does each position coach have some freedom of his own?
Right. Well, so that's a good question. We have, and that's part of the recruiting philosophy that we were able to come in and implement. So our philosophy was obviously to start in state and move out. So I believe that we counted 419 football playing schools in Missouri, and then on the Kansas City and St. Louis sides of Illinois and Kansas. And so, we were operating off of that number as far as our in-state goes. So when we extend an offer in the state of Missouri, boy, that is, we're coming to get you, and that is something that we want to make sure that we do. As far as going into that, it's an extensive process. So it's not kind of willy-nilly. The running backs coach is going and watching his however many he wants, and he's going to go get who he does. There is a submitter, what we call a submitter, and that could be the area coach. That could be someone in our recruiting department. That could be just an unsolicited email. That could be a number of things, right? That could be some guy that shows up on Rivals with an Iowa offer or something. So he goes to submit it. We have a website or a system, basically a database system that holds all this information. That guy will be evaluated at the area. So we are an area-based recruiting staff. So the area coach will be the first guy and what that does, that allows you to get just another set of eyes, and that makes sure that we don't miss, when we say we're going to hit all 419 football playing schools in our footprint, our home state footprint, we're going to hit them, and this allows us to do that. And so once he gets approval from that guy, we're really yes, no from there. So if the area coach says yes, he passes it on to the position coach. If he says no, okay, well, he's got a guy that he knows about in his area that he can comment on later if we need to. And then so the position coach does the same thing, yes or no. If he says yes, it goes to the side of the ball. So it goes to the offensive staff or it goes to the defensive staff. Or it can be a hold. And for instance, if I've got a tight end that, the area coach passed him to me, thought he was good, I need to see maybe a little bit something more in camp, then that's somebody that it's good because now I know about him and I can reevaluate him at a later date. So and also the area coach knows about him as somebody that he's passed on. So it goes to the staff, and then the staff gets together offensively or defensively. and makes a consensus. Now you've got 4 to 6 guys sitting in there saying yay or nay. That allows us at that point, you gain a little bit more information every time you go through that process. Okay, all right, he passed the position coach. Well, when the position coach goes in there, he better be able to say he's got both parents are at home. He's got this GPA. He's never had a concussion in his life, and then when we go to and then it passes another test. Now we're sitting there as an offensive staff. For instance, we were watching a prospect the other day. We were like, gosh, we got to get some feedback on this guy. So we were able to call 2 opponent high school coaches that had played him during his junior year. Boy, we can go in there. We called those guys, put him on speakerphone, asked him questions about what they thought, how they approached him, what it was. Just any informational feedback that allows us to say, man, this is really somebody that we need to invest in, or maybe we got to find out more information. And so at that point, as a staff, we either say, all right, we're going to send him to Coach Drink, or we're going to put him in this holding pattern. And again, now you have another group of guys that you can access that maybe the position coach liked that we can revisit if we lose somebody on the board. And so then it becomes to that last point, and that's Coach Drinkwitz. And he does a great job, in my opinion, of holding us accountable to saying this is who we want to recruit. Coach, why do you want to recruit him? Can we get him? What's his GPA? Is he fit? Is he focused? Does he have intangibles? Is he talented? Is he tough? Can you prove it? And we got to go in there with that information. And once we do that, and he gives final approval, then the race is on. You know what I mean? Then we get particularly, we try to get everyone involved that's in that chain. Now you've got an area coach that's invested in this. You've got a position coach that's invested in this. You really have an offensive or defensive staff that says you don't have the tight ends coach not knowing which offensive tackle we're offering, or a running backs coach not knowing who we're taking at defensive end or something. So we have a chance to do that. And then we go in there with Coach Drink. He gives us the go-ahead, and it really becomes a team effort from recruiting. And that's served us well. We've got a great staff that really gets along. And it can get pretty heated in there. It can get, man, I really like this guy. Well, why do you like him? I don't think he's worth. And then it's proved to me we ought to take him. And I tell you what you get when you get out of that, you get a solid consensus opinion with a bunch of different. You get well-educated opinion, and so that way, and truthfully, what it does too, guys, is it's when we go back and we get so and so running back committed, then we don't go back in and say, that guy, I didn't like that guy. He wasn't worth anything. No, you sat in there and you had your opportunity to talk and do that. And so it's, it gives us a team consensus. It gives us a team, and Coach Drink has done a great job of promoting that atmosphere of getting everybody pulling in the same direction, not just in our building. He's done that with recruiting, and he's done that with our fan base, I think, to a degree, our administration, our team, and hopefully that continues to show up, but as well as on the field, but as also in recruiting. So.
Casey, one more question from me. We're about 11 months into this pandemic here, where you haven't had the ability to get out and recruit players in person and bring players to campus. I know you want all of that to change, but are there any aspects of recruiting or changes to recruiting that have happened over that time that you think might be kind of here to stay?
I certainly think the virtual aspect of this thing has changed the game. I think that you've got an opportunity to, if you do it the right way, you've got an opportunity to give good quality information to these guys that are seeking quality information. And what that does is then I do think that as challenging as it's been for this class, and really the class of 22, because they're missing a lot of opportunity. We don't really know where the NCAA is going to go with their final decision for the spring and summer. They've had to be really mature about making these decisions. They've had to invest time in these visits to say, boy, I'm going to sit down and pay attention to what's going on. They don't have time to just go enjoy spring break and hit 12 schools just because it's fun and I get to put on a jersey. They've got to be serious about you in order to do that. And I think that there's I think what you'll see is you will see guys that are well educated, probably, I think I said this maybe back in the summer, guys that are even more so earlier educated than they've ever been. And that particularly in this class of 22. I mean, I think that the guys that are committing are guys that feel like they've had their questions answered, and so I think that you'll continue to see some of that. Obviously, the dynamic of opening back up just allows it's easier, it's more complete evaluation, it's more complete feel. I think that the feel thing still exists about being around. This is the feel that I'm looking for. I'm looking for professional NFL factory, or I'm looking for maybe a family atmosphere that's gonna, treat me right, and it's gonna be my home away from home. There's different approaches to each of those and what it is that we're trying to sell. But I do think that that virtual screening will exist to help set hooks, to help guys find out if they're seriously interested in what it is that you're doing, and it saves. I think again, it just makes the process more efficient, and it'll help those guys that are making decisions narrow down their actual travel, their physical travel, probably down more than it's been, and just be more focused. I think that what this thing has done is it's made our recruiting, our football recruiting, more intentional about informing these guys the right way. It's not just about getting them to campus all the time. It's about intentional quality information that you're presenting to them. And then for the prospects, it's forcing them to, again, be more mature, be more informed about their decisions maybe than they had in the past. It's less of not that all prospects are like this, but there's less gamesmanship. It's less just enjoying, putting on a bunch of jerseys, and more, okay, I got to focus on what my future is. And so it's I think it's taught us lessons in that, and we'll certainly be able to utilize the technology advances that we've had over the past year to continue to push what it is that we want to do. But yet we've still got this spectacular $100 million football facility that we got to get these guys to see. So it's there's nothing like the real thing, and having them here. So we look forward to the opportunity to getting these guys on campus.
All right, Casey, we'll wrap you up on a little bit of a lighter note. We had Coach Drinkwitz on this show last week, and he it struck me in the times we've talked to him, he is always on. He's always got a quick remark. Energy is the first word everybody uses to talk about him. So without doing anything that will get you in trouble with your boss or anything, tell us what it's like working for. Is he like that every day? Give us an Eli Drinkwitz story that we might not know.
I do think that Coach Drink brings it every day, and I think that there is, when I first met Coach Drinkwitz, and everyone probably gets this at some point or another. He's incredible high energy. He's incredibly positive all the time. He's an everyman's kind of guy in the sense that he's relaxed from the standpoint of when you meet him. When you shake his hand for the first time, I don't want to use the word unassuming, but there's a little bit of a non-threatening. He presents himself as very non-threatening. But I remember the very first time that I met him. So the three GAs that were together at Auburn were me, Eli, and Rhett Lashley, who's now the offensive coordinator at Miami. And so Rhett had known Eli from their time in Arkansas together, and he said, "Don't let this guy fool you. Now he's gonna when you meet him, he's gonna be super nice, super positive." He said, "But watch you now, he'll show some teeth," and he really does. He's got some shark in him, that when he's ready to make a point to our team, to our staff, to recruiting, to me, to anybody, he can flip the switch really quick in such a way that it's not rude or condescending or anything like that. But he goes from nice, unassuming guy that wears glasses and Andy Reid's T-shirt to all of a sudden, oh boy, he's talking to me and I need to perform for him. So it's he's an incredible guy. I tell you, we were fortunate to come in at the time that we did together, and it was I was just coming off my big volunteer deal, so I had just gotten a $9,000 raise. I think he was coming off of a full-time job and had probably pay cut down to 9. So we were making about the same, but our path there had been a little different. He had a wife and a baby, Addison, who's, gosh dang, she was in our wedding when she was just a little girl, me and my wife. But I remember this is kind of a funny story between, probably Lauren will probably get after me and Lindsay for this one. But so we lived in these little 1-bedroom apartments off of the Tuskegee Highway. So, I mean, it was all you could pull together for like $450 a month, And so Lauren was out there living, and Eli and Lindsay lived kind of just across the parking lot from us there, and another one with Addison. And they were, it was, God, you think being a coach's wife is hard, be a GA's wife. And those dudes, God bless them. And so I remember that Lauren, my wife, used to go over to Lindsay's house, and Lindsay would cook her dinner in exchange for babysitting Addison. So they were, I mean, you can imagine we're bringing home a combined $18,000. And so they're over there scrounging, sharing spaghetti while Lauren stayed, just to give Lindsay a break from the baby. And so he living off of those deals. But when you look back at those times, you laugh to be where you are. But those are the moments that kind of shape you and challenge you. And if you could push through those and do that, then it gives you, God willing, an opportunity one day to, I'm very fortunate that he's my boss. It's awesome that we're friends, and it just makes me want to work that much harder for him. So he can have success. And now that we're at this place, I don't, being a coach's kid, I've learned the easiest thing that I can do in my life is buy in. And so it's, having the ability to shape something that's great and push it further than it's ever been, like the Missouri football program, we're in an awesome place, and really excited to be here and be a part of this.
Well, Casey, we've taken way too much of your time tonight, but really appreciate you joining us. And I know a lot of the people watching got to learn a few things. So appreciate that. And who knows, maybe there'll be a time down the road we actually, see you in person and cover a practice or something.
Well, if I can figure out how to ever operate this this video button, then that would probably help you. So I'm sorry about that, but it's my strength is not in computers, but it is in recruiting and coaching ball. So appreciate you guys for having me. Look forward to getting back sometime, and we'll get the video feed worked out next time.
All right. Have a good one, Casey. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Casey.
MIZ.
All right, Casey Woods, Missouri's tight ends coach and recruiting coordinator. Appreciate him spending, it was close to a full hour with us, and hopefully you guys learned some things there, and talked a little bit about individual players, but really more wanted him on to talk about the process and all that. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that, and Mitch certainly did not disappoint in his ability to fill our show and say many things. He's a good talker.
He is, yeah, absolutely. And I thought it was, cool. I thought he gave a really nice kind of behind the curtains peek at a few aspects when you're talking about, the process, what goes into an offer, and, stuff during this pandemic year, and just kind of how the recruiting department works and all that. And I think that's something that a lot of people, who are subscribed to our site, even if they know a lot about recruiting, follow it closely, might not have known. So I thought that was neat.
Yeah, so real quick before we go, Missouri and Kentucky play tomorrow. And Mitch, here's the night in SEC basketball. Ole Miss 52, Tennessee 50.
Ooh.
That's a disaster, at least for one team. Georgia 91, Auburn 86.
Wow.
Both of those teams 4-6, and with 5 minutes left in the first half, Arkansas is on a huge run to draw within 18-13 of Mississippi State. They were down 16-5 with 8 minutes to go in the first half.
Arkansas is like the worst first half team ever.
Yes.
Like they're down, like they don't just get down in first halves, they get down by impossible margins. Like against LSU, they were down by 31. I think against Bama, they were down by 20 plus. I mean, it's hard to do.
They should just tell the other team, look, you're ahead by 20. We're only going to play 20 minutes. We'll do, but their players might confuse that for being the first half, and then they might lose by 45. So,
Right. That's a good point. Risky strategy.
So, yeah, Mizzou, Kentucky tomorrow, signing day tomorrow. Sort of. I mean, it's, it sounds like, honestly, from what Casey was saying, a lot of Missouri stuff is going to be focused on the kids who have already signed and kind of putting out some content on them because we just don't expect a whole lot to happen tomorrow.
Right. Yeah. I think, like we mentioned, BJ Harris, maybe a couple more guys getting, official. But yeah, I think for the most part, the recruiting class is done, and there's maybe a transfer or two still coming between now and fall camp, but that won't be announced tomorrow.
Yep. All right. Well, Mitch, appreciate it, man. We should do this. We should find somebody every week who will just do most of the talking. It's easier this way.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. That's fine with me.
All right. Have a good one, man. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Before you leave, you got to do two things. Remind you to go to 573tees.com. Check them out. They're a sponsor of this show every single week. They've been with us for about a year now. Done a lot for us. Hopefully we can do some things for them and direct people to their site and send some business their way. So do that before you log off here. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. You'll be able to find out when we go live. I'll be live tomorrow night at 5 o'clock for pregame of Mizzou, Kentucky, and we'll have all your coverage. So thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next week.